Here you can see the damage a little better. It's well overdue for replacement. Round the back here it is still holding on in certain places, but obviously this is no longer fit for purpose. So let's take the old one off and we'll get a new one on. We're just going to mark up where this went. So we know to align these two pieces here. So I'm going to clean this up and then I'll bring you back when I'm done. So there's a circlip here holding this piece on. I've also marked this portion here so we can make sure it's aligned again when it goes back together. So I'll pull this off and clean it up, and then we'll have a look again what we've got when I finish that. Okay, I've now taken the end off, so I just tapped it off very carefully with a punch, but be very careful not to damage the splines. I've removed the old boot, and I've also marked up this section of the spline to fit in with the piece that we took off, so everything goes back exactly as it went on. Now I'm going to take the boot off the other side because once one boot's gone, probably the other one will follow suit quite quickly afterwards. So I'll take that off, clean that up and show you the bare shaft before we reassemble it. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so the other side is now off. The easiest way I found to do this was to cut the old boot off and use a soft face hammer to hit the joint off. So it's just a snap ring here, so a spring clip if you will, holding that on, so you can just remove it with blows from a hammer. Now the service manual suggests tapping, but I'll tell you now, tapping will not get it off. So get a big soft face hammer and give it a few whacks with that, and hopefully it will come off. Now we need to also take off these two items here. So there's a plastic, I don't know if you want to call it a race, it's shaped like a race, and behind that is a rubber or plastic, is it plastic? May well be a metal actually, washer. So make sure you save all of these pieces and take them off. So you've got the plastic and the metal washer there. So I would keep them the same way up that they've come off, ready for install, because that washer is domed, so we need to make sure that that goes back on the correct way. So I'm going to put these here together exactly how they came off. I'm going to clean up the shaft and then I'll bring you back when we're ready to start reinstalling. So I've got the parts here. They're pretty nasty, but yeah, it's just surface rust, but I figured while it's apart, maybe let's give it a little spruce up. I keep having to replace paint markings because they keep disappearing and you don't want to lose track. So I'm going to mark the inside of this bolt hole and the hub. I also have this part here, which is pretty crusty, so we can give this a go. If you notice, I've covered the apertures with gloves, and likewise we don't want to touch this surface here or these splines. Okay, let's see how we can get these looking. Okay, so not great, but some of the surface rust is gone. We're going to give these a quick go of paint. This is 100% not the correct way to paint things. This is not the correct paint, but I don't have time to do what we should be doing. Ideally, you bring these back to bare metal, then use an etch primer and then paint on top of that. Alternatively, you could use perhaps Hammerite Direct to Rust, but I don't have time to wait for that to dry, so I'm just going to give it a quick coating of gloss black spray paint. I don't expect this to last for particularly long, but it might just give it an extra bit of protection, so we'll just give it a quick spray now. Right, so while the paint is drying, we can get our new boots on and get them all ready to go. So, for the outside part, I bought it as a kit. As usual, my normal favourite supplier. So this is the kit that we have for the outside. So it's Febby part, so 49070. And in that kit we have the bag of CV grease, obviously a new boot, two new clips, and a new Driveshaft bolt, because officially these are one use only. And then we're going to ramp the boot up so it sits into this groove. Like so. So you can hear that quite clearly snap into position. So now I'm going to wind this clip around. So it's still loose, so we need to go a bit further. Okay, so we want this to be able to move slightly, but not a lot. And then we need to pinch this portion here. So for this, we need a special pinchy tool. So that has now locked this in position. I'm just going to tap these portions down here. So that is now correctly locked in position. So what you could do now is put half of the grease in here, but actually I'm not going to do that quite yet, because I want to make sure that I can quite clearly see the mark that I placed earlier and align the joint. So here we have our freshly painted end cup. So what I actually will do is put a bit of grease inside these ball bearings before we assemble this. So you can see the, I'm not sure if you can see, there's a green mark in there. I've also marked the shaft with a green mark. So what we're going to do is assemble those together in the same position that they came apart. Okay, so this portion is now just lightly engaged on the splines. And we can now put in the rest of our grease. So we now need to get this all the way on. Over that snap ring. So we're going to lightly, well, we'll try lightly tapping the end of the shaft to have it reassemble. So we lost a little bit of grease at the bottom there, but not too bad. So make sure this is seated nicely in the groove that needs to be sat in. So we don't want it to pop over like that. We want it to sit just in that groove. And then we'll follow exactly the same thing we did in the last one with this one. So I can't quite stretch it to get it to the second joint on the clip. So I'm trying to stretch it to hook this into on the second joint there, but I don't think there's enough. I think I'm going to have to go for the far one. I like 2 laps. So we use our special tool again. So this is now nice and tight. And with like the other one, I'll just tap this down just to reduce any chances of this catching on any other components. So unfortunately I couldn't paint this portion without painting the surface here, so I've just chosen to leave it rusty. I'm sure this will rust pretty quickly, but we tried. So we'll take the opportunity now to flip it round and we can do the other side. Okay, so we flipped it round. Here's the other side. We've got our 2 paint marks here and here. So the part that we'll use for this side is this one, so 38343. Again, it's a Febby part. And in this kit, we have our 2 clips, we have our grease, and we have the new boot here. So you notice these portions here are profiled, and that will fit in to the cup on the other side. So we'll follow the same process here. We'll put this one on, lock it in position first, and then we'll go grab the cup. So we're going to try and seat this one in this groove. Like so, so that the clip can hold it nicely in this groove. I'm going to place this on lightly, but I'm not going to crimp it because I want to make sure we can align the other side with the profiles in this boot first, so just careful on that one. So this one is a little bit tricky, so I'm going to try and do it off on here and then slide it onto the boot, or put it on the boot first. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to crimp that just yet because I want to align this portion down here first. Because the cup will sit up in here, I will put some grease in this side first, so not the same as we did the other one. Right, after a slight detour, I realised that I forgot to put the washer on the other joint, so I just had to take that apart again, refit the washer correctly, and then reassemble. Obviously these clips are one-time use only, but if you are careful you can reuse them again. So we're effectively now back to where I was a minute ago, and we can continue on the other side. So if you remember, I didn't tighten this clip up because I wanted to make sure I could align the cup effectively, and wanted to make sure that that all went together as it went apart. So next on the list then is to refit this little piece, followed by the circlet. So if you remember, we marked it here, so I can now reassemble this. Just trying to make sure this is aligned. I think it's one spline off. Yeah, perfect. Okay, that looks better now. So we'll gently tap this guy home. So we're nearly there. We're just trying to make sure that we can see the groove for the circlip. So then that was a 30 I just used. The socket was catching on the end, preventing it being hammered any further. So 23 and then a 30 is what I used. So let's get that circlet back on. Always be careful with your eyes with these, because sometimes they're not so friendly. Okay, so that's engaged in there now. Now if you remember, we also made a mark on the shaft, which is here, and we're going to align it with the green mark on the cup. So we get some grease on the faces of these, and then for the rest of the grease packet we'll put it in the cup. Making sure to spread it up the sides of the cup where the outside of these will contact. So just by coincidence, These portions here are now lined up with these portions of the cup. A bit of a grease tries to escape down the bottom, but there is no escape. Okay, so we'll just level these clips up. Oh no, just let that one go. I would really like this to go one more, but I don't know if it will. No, it won't. So we'll do that one there. Okay, so there we go. We have one new, well, not a new axle, but with new CV boots, and it's just had a bit of a tidy up as well. The paint on this is actually so good I've left it alone, and this is the original Driveshaft from 2008, so it's doing pretty well. We will put some anti-seize on the spline for the output side, and we'll put some on the face of the input side. So the next time we need to take it apart, it should be good to go.